I stopped to get a closer look at this bridge, and I noticed there's a bridge stamp on it. Western Pacific, 1926, which would have been the same year that US 40 was created. So this bridge is very close to being a century old.
In today's episode, I'll be exploring an old bridge along Old US 40, 60 miles west of Salt Lake City. US 40 was one of the original routes when the US highway system was created in November 1926, and this bridge, coincidentally enough, was constructed in that same year. So come along with me as I check out this old road, abandoned US 40, in Utah's West Desert.
This is the Western Pacific overpass on Old US 40, very near exit 62 on Interstate 80. Built in 1926 by the Western Pacific, currently used today by the Union Pacific. You can see a little bit of its heritage there, kind of very faint there. It says Cotton Belt, which is dating from its time when this line was owned by the Southern Pacific. The line's changed hands a couple of times in the last 100 years. If you can read through the graffiti paint, you should be able to pick out where it says Western Pacific 1926. This bridge was bypassed in the early 1960s when they built Interstate 80. So for about 40 years, all the traffic on US 40 between Wendover and Salt Lake City passed through this underpass. Looking at it in the other direction, this is in the westbound direction. The bridge stamp is a little bit clearer because it's not covered in graffiti. You can see traffic on Interstate 80 there in the distance.
Aside from the bridge, there's also a pretty interesting section of the old highway in this area. If we take a look at this map, this is from the United States Geological Service, dating back to 1973, and I usually like to find a topographic map. This is all I was able to come up with for them. But just to orientate yourself, what we see here is exit number 62 from Interstate 80, and these lines right here represent the freeway. To the left is Wendover, 60 miles to the west. To the right would be Salt Lake City, 60 miles to the east. So this is essentially the halfway point between Salt Lake City and Wendover. It's also a high point on the road, as the road rises about 400 or 500 feet. And it's really the only hill that you cross any point between driving between Salt Lake City and Wendover. The bridge and the railroad is right here. And then it's this road right here that represents Old US 40. And as you can see, there's about a 2-mile stretch that's still sitting there in its pristine condition. Now at both ends, it's cut off by the freeway. Over here on the west end, the freeway was laid on top of it, but just across the freeway, you can still see some faint areas that represent where the road used to curve before the freeway cut it off. And then over here on the eastern end, the road also comes to an end. So let's go and take a look at this road.
At this point, it's very clear to see the old highway markings on the road. Yellow line down the center.
As you drive eastward from the bridge toward Salt Lake City, the road continues to degrade in quality as you get further away from the bridge. About halfway along the road, you reach this very rutted section. Now, I still find it passable even in my RAV4, but take a look at it carefully before you decide to drive along it. Finally, you reach the end of the road. Now, there is a little farm road that goes off to the right, and I've seen people on ATVs using that road, but I've never gone further than this point because this is the point where US 40 was completely eliminated by Interstate 80, which you can see in the distance. Going back the other direction toward the west, the road ends almost immediately after passing under the railroad bridge. You can see the freeway directly ahead. And then in this longer view, you can see at this point right here, the point where the curve of US 40 actually emerged from the other side of Interstate 80 and then eventually curved back to be completely obliterated by the freeway itself. If my work has inspired you to seek out this old road, or perhaps others like it, please click the thumbs up and give the video a like so that YouTube will share it with others too. If you enjoy the content on this channel, I'd be honored to have you as a subscriber. Finally, if you have any questions or feedback, or even a correction, please note it in the comments below. Your feedback helps me to improve and do better. Thank you for watching.